Hey, good morning. This is Trey Gaskins with Symphony Technologies, and welcome to the Thought Leadership Series discussion. We've got our friends from Stratus IoT on the future of smart apartments today, brought to you by Stratus and Symphony Technology Solutions. I'm the president of the Internet of Things division here at Symphony, and I'm joined today with my co-host, Wendy Leibowitz, Director of Dealer Development at Stratus. Wendy, how are we doing today?
Wonderful. How are you?
We are doing great. Thanks for joining us today. And I know you got a couple of your teammates with you. We have Adelaide Braddock, VP of Strategic Alliances at Stratus, and Lee Miller, the Senior Director of Sales for the US and Europe. And as we go through today's discussion, we'd love for you to, that are participating with us today, I'd love for you to ask questions. You'll see on the bottom screen, you should have an opportunity to type in a question in the Q&A section. And we'll be answering those kind of throughout the presentation. So we'd love for it to be interactive today. And feel free to ask away and try to make this as interactive as possible. Stratus is the leader in the IoT solutions for the multifamily marketplace today. We've partnered up with them as a key distribution partner. And a lot of people are asking kind of what's going on, where are things headed, and today we're going to be exploring those. And so, Adelaide, do you want to get us started with? I think we had a video we were going to watch, or get that kicked off in our discussion.
Yes, sir. Can everybody see my presentation? I've got a little screen sharing going on right now.
We sure can.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining. Appreciate it. Trey, thank you for the lovely introduction. Always a pleasure to see your face in those cool glasses there. I like the setup. It's very intellectual. Happy, what is this, Wednesday? Do we know what day it is? Middle of June already. So basically what Trey said, I'm going to kind of flow into here around just kind of housekeeping ideas. Very interactive webinar. We highly encourage any questions that you have, bring them. Let us know what you're thinking during the presentation, because heaven knows oftentimes you get through an hour-long presentation, you had all these really cool questions during it, and then after the fact they all kind of fade or you forget it once you get outside the moment. So please, by all means, we're about to throw a bunch of information at you, so we want to know what you have to say about it, what your thoughts are around this. We will be monitoring the chat as well. Lee has been kind enough to volunteer, or let me tell him to take a look at the chat for me and let me know if there's any questions in there. Wendy will also be able to join in with any points in here. We also have Jim Manning, who is, along with Wendy, part of our Stratus Certified Partner Program, which Symphony is a proud member. They are, to Trey's point, one of our premier integrators in the marketplace for our product, and we really enjoy working with all of our integrators for exactly the reasons they bring to the table. They're professional, they're very knowledgeable in the field, they're boots on the ground across the country, so it's fantastic having partners like that. We encourage you to bring yourselves or other partners that you may have to the table as well. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about is we're really just going to dive into Stratus as a product and make sure that you have a full understanding of what it is that we're offering and how it is that our product can augment your conversations, help you be a more ready advisor and consultant in the marketplace and knowledgeable around some of the upcoming technologies, particularly for buildings that are looking to future-proof their solutions and their investments. First thing I'd like everyone to do, if you have a smartphone handy, iOS or Android, please, if you can take out your phone and point your camera at this QR code right here and go ahead and download the Stratus application. What this is going to allow you to do is try a demo of our app on the mobile platform so that you can get more of a tactile sense of how the application works and how residents and staff members on a property might be engaged with the application. There's heaps of features on here. I'm going to quickly touch on a few of them if you'll. Okay, so this is an example of what we're talking about here. So if you tap on that try a demo option in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see a full demo of the application as it exists. Obviously, it's not going to control any devices in your space, but you'll get a sense, again, from that tactile perspective of what the application feels like to people who use it on a daily basis. And you'll get a sense of just how robust all of our feature set actually is. So here we see immediately at the top, you've got your your settings for your different scenes, if you want to set scenes within a certain space. We have one coworker who's currently using it on his space, has a newborn. They've got a scene called diapers. So when he clicks on it at 3 o'clock in the morning, the lights come up about 30% and go in, do the thing with the baby, put him back to sleep, and then come out without interrupting their partner's sleep. So it's a really robust feature. You can call it whatever you want. And the way that residents gain access to this application is the aspect of it that we're probably most proud of. It's very, very simplistic in its design. Staff members take the email address for a resident, type it into the Stratus backend through our management application, which we're going to see in a moment. They send the invitation to the resident creates a password, and they log in, and that's it. It's a very easy process, and it's that way on purpose because we want to make sure that staff are not having to spend heaps of time. We're trying to make all the efficiencies that we can in being able to use the application. We want the residents to be able to get in and out with a quickness, and we don't want them to have to sign away their lives to do it. The objective of this application is we're creating a single app solution across all of the devices and all of the platforms that a property may integrate with. So now, instead of having a bunch of app fatigue and a bunch of different applications that you have to log into and set up your devices, once the resident logs in, all those devices are there. It's inclusive of all of the devices in their unit, as well as all of the access control throughout the property. So if they need to get into amenity spaces on a property or common areas like garages and things like that, all of that is available through the mobile application as well.
That's
if you click,
awesome.
Yeah, I love also the fact that if you go into some of the more detailed, the nuanced aspects of the application, you can see really just how robust. And when I say robust, I mean robust. So when we're talking about here, feel free to go in and play with this. This isn't going to obviously damage or change anything. This is a demo specifically set up for this purpose. So you can go in, you can change the preferences, you can go through the tutorial, you can see what's new in our newest releases, you can see what our help page looks like, all kinds of things. I highly encourage you to take a look at the visitor controls. You can see what adding a visitor looks like. This is a really neat feature because it automatically goes into the contacts list in your phone, and you can select from your contacts without having to populate that information each time. And you can set parameters around visitor access in a very nuanced way as well. So now your visitors who are coming in for dog walking, for example, you can set every, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11, and then again from 1 p.m. to 3 to be able to come in and walk the dog. If you have in-home nursing or something like that, you can grant access to that person to have 24-hour access to the space to be able to help the resident in that space. So again, a very robust feature, not just for the residents, but robust for the staff side as well. Staff can actually go in and determine who can and cannot have access to features like visitor access. If a property has an issue where a resident is taking advantage of the feature in a way that violates their lease, they can go in and turn that feature off for that resident's unit without affecting the rest of the property. They can also determine that they only want to be the ones to allow visitor access to the property, and they can shut that off for the entire property, and then residents will have to come to the staff to request visitor access for someone so that the staff can manage who comes in and out of a particular space at a particular time. So lots of really great features around things like that. Also with the access control, you can see we've got communication with locks across the property available at the swipe of the phone, or we even have a long press option for differently abled or different preferences. There's robust features around language controls. We even have left to right languages for people who are using Arabic and Hebrew and others of that nature. So really cool stuff. Again, go in there, take a look at it, get a real fine sense for it, and we'll leave it at that.
Adelaide, while you're switching over, I saw the original app, and y'all have made a lot of great improvements. So you're obviously investing in that and listening to your customers for the new features and functions. So congrats on all the enhancements there.
This is a version 2.0 of the application that took us about 1.5 years of development. So we're really proud of this one as well. And it's nice to have someone who has seen both versions of it. Obviously, the original version was pretty robust, but this one just blows it out of the park. So it's really fantastic to have this in our wheelhouse now.
Great.
All right. So going back to our presentation here. Let's dive into a little bit around what Stratus actually is as a product. All right, so we like to say smart apartments, intelligent buildings. What does it mean to have an intelligent building? So at the high level, what we're talking about is you want to have a building that has access to giving your staff and residents the most complete experience possible. And what I mean when I say that is oftentimes when we focus on the resident experience in our industry, people tend to start with the resident. And in reality, there's a lot of things in multifamily that go into the resident experience that sometimes get bypassed in that decision-making process. We really want people focused on the people at a property who make that resident experience as good as it can be. And if you're really looking, microscopically at what that is, that one person, more often than anyone else, is going to be your maintenance manager. And I say that because if you think about it from a multifamily perspective, your maintenance manager is the one person you can always point to and say, if that person is having a bad day, probably everyone else on the property is having a bad day, because the maintenance manager not being able to do his or her job means that the residents aren't getting maintenance requests fulfilled, which can sometimes be a detriment to the property. And if they're having a bad time with that, they will then complain to the property management, who then has to deal with the complaints and then filter that back to the maintenance manager. So it creates a pretty negative cycle within a property. And what we try to focus on with that is making sure that every single person at the job that they do and at the level that they're at is able to do that job with the utmost efficiency. So here, an intelligent building can include things like thermostats, leak detection, locks, blinds, outlets, all of that fun stuff. At a more robust level, we're also talking about making sure that you have visibility into that property, that as a staff member, you can see what those devices are doing. You can see how people are interacting with your property. Are they having an enjoyable experience, or do they need a little bit more help having that experience? So how we do that is we engage with a twofold application process. So we have a browser management app, browser-based management app, I should say, that we give off to the staff members to be able to control and gain visibility into the building. And then we have a mobile application that's useful for both the residents and the staff. So in this case, the staff members can go into the property and they can see, okay, in my occupied units, I want to be able to set all of the thermostats to this temperature, this time of year, and I want to automate that. So it's effectively a building-wide scene that will affect all of the unoccupied units in my building. For all of the occupied units in my building, I want to make sure that I have zero visibility into those devices, because that's a liability. And I don't want my residents to feel like their safety is in question, or that I can see, or that someone else can see when they're on vacation, or if if they're using more electricity or less, like that they're going to be put on the spot about that. The only thing that we want properties to consistently have access to are things like leaks in a particular unit. So we use leak detection as a means to alert the entire resident and property relevant persons to the fact that there is a leak in that space, so that it can be handled with immediacy and can be preventative in other maintenance costs that may result from not noticing that a leak is now dripping down to 13 floors underneath you. So that is just an overall view of what the management app can do for the staff on a property. For the residents on a property, we just went through the demonstration of the mobile application, so I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty on that one, but this just gives you another sort of sense of some of the key components that we can do there.
Hey, Adelaide, just while you're still on that slide, can you comment on like the typical onboarding process at a property, and how many, on a traditional property, how many database entries you have to do, and
Sure.
with your one dashboard, how that's simplified?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you asked that question, because it is a process that can be cumbersome for properties that are using a lot of different solutions. So if you think, for example, we're not a manufacturer, we don't make our own products, we integrate with existing products in the marketplace. These are well-known, well-versed products, most of which are built specifically for the complexities of multifamily. We do the same thing for back-end construction. So if we have integrations with property management systems like RealPage, or access control systems like Brevo, we want to make sure that we're the centralized location for all of that information, so that the work effort on behalf of the property is minimalized. So we work very closely with our integrators to make sure, and this is where Wendy and Jim come into play. They're the ones who guide the integrators through the process of setting up those databases with our engineers, to make sure that by the time the property logs in and looks at it day one, they're ready to roll. They can start adding residents and doing move-ins on the first day and making credentials and all the things that they need to do without a whole lot of effort in that process. Does that answer the question?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, no, I appreciate that question very much. Because it's a process we're really proud of, and it helps us develop our partnerships more, and that's frankly really what we're about. So, okay, so here we have, I'm going to show a quick video here for a property called Park on Spear. This is a really, really highly technical property out in Denver, and it is just emblematic of the type of thing that we like to do in the marketplace. This is going to be out in the Golden Triangle, so it's a pretty competitive space. It's a great opportunity for them to be a competitor in that marketplace and really pull in residents, who might otherwise go to buildings with similar or other amenities. This is a marketing video that we did, so it's going to focus very strongly on Stratus. But a little bit later, we have another video that another property did for their own marketing purposes that also showcases Stratus as a means to bring in residents.
Yep.
Great.
Okay.
Welcome to Park on Spear in Denver, Colorado. Greystar and Stratus IoT have teamed up to create one of the smartest buildings around. Stratus IoT has created a holistic solution offering building-wide access control via a secure mobile app for residents, guests, and property staff. It's all supported by a secure, professionally installed, property-wide network. Let me show you the Sidewalk to Sofa solution. With the Stratus building-wide IoT network, property management can remotely set lighting and temperature in amenity spaces, as well as set property schedules and automated scenes. Stratus also provides building-wide Wi-Fi for residents to use in common areas. You can seamlessly move from outside the building, up elevators, through amenity spaces, all the way up to your front door where you'll have a fully equipped smart home waiting for you. The Stratus app lets residents unlock their doors from up to 30 feet away, and all the apartment homes are outfitted with Schlage multifamily rated locks. Alexa, I'm home. An Alexa-enabled device and Lutron smart lighting controls give residents voice-controlled lighting, temperature, and automated window shades. Utilizing the Nest Multifamily API, Stratus lets residents set heating and cooling schedules for their home. And since Stratus is cloud-based, your residents can set their temperatures from anywhere. Stratus's integration with Butterfly MX allows residents to control access of scheduled services like a cleaner or dog walker. You can expect even deeper integration with Butterfly MX soon, including video. Stratus is always thinking about our clients' NOI and asset value. Stratus integrates with short-term rental companies, allowing guests to have seamless access to the property and unit, bringing in additional revenue. As you can see, Greystar and Stratus have created an incredible smart home experience. Welcome home.
All right. So that gives us a really good sense of not just what Stratus is doing, but also how other properties are engaging with Stratus as a product. So that gives us a better sense there of how that property has engaged. One thing to note here is the two properties that we're going to showcase in this presentation have also been nominated for National Apartment Association Awards for Innovation and Technology, specifically because of their integration with Stratus. So this is not just something that properties are recognizing as a competitive differentiator, but it's something the marketplace is now coming into and saying this is important for us to take note of and showcase case as a means for other properties to do the same. What we have in this section is we're showing what the actual differentiators are in a more detailed level. We don't have to go through all of these different things. There's going to be things here that are relevant to some of you and less so to others, but that's fine. What I really want to make note of here is things around like the whole building connectivity, no app fatigue, highly secure, automatic onboarding, and future proofing. These are the different components of conversations that we have that are the most consistent concerns that decision makers have for their building solutions. When you're having this conversation, this is what they need to be spoken to about, so that they know when they're making the decision that they're going to get the most for their investment. And what I really like to focus here are just the points in the first row. Things like the devices that we integrate with, we don't have to connect to the resident Wi-Fi to get them to work. We install a backbone network across the property, so that ensures the ownership of those devices is retained by the property at all times, even when the resident leaves the space, and there's no turnover effect. So you're not having to go in and reset a thermostat, take it off the resident's account, add it to the property's account, and then the new resident has to come in and add it to their account. This is all very seamless, and it's in most cases contactless. There are very limited instances where someone would actually have to go to a door to make a change for a resident transition. All of these things can usually be done from the leasing office or from whatever office someone's working from. The app fatigue, that speaks to that as well, where residents and staff again are only using one application to manage their respective elements on the property. We are very proud of our security level on this. This is something we take very, very seriously, and we always want to make sure that when you're talking about multifamily, you're talking about security. Residents have to feel secure in their space, or they will not stay. They will find any reason to get out of a space that they don't feel safe in. So here we're talking about if we're not having to put a hub in each of the resident units, then that means the residents don't have access to it. So if you have a potential bad actor on a property, you as a staff member don't have to worry about a resident being able to get in and hack that hub. We're also not having to worry about a visitor doing the same thing, or unauthorized workers or something like that. And then some of you may notice the natively SOC 2 compliant aspect. This is something I only point out because we're the only one in the marketplace who offers this. Automatic onboarding means that the operation efficiencies are at their highest. Again, we're talking about that one button control, that seamless access point, adding the resident, hitting send, letting the resident take ownership of the process and the onus of that process away from the staff, so that now they can just set up their own mobile app when they're ready to go and have access to their space when they're ready to use it, and that setup for the resident is minimal as well. And then the bottom row here, when we're talking about future proofing, this is an investment. We realize that this is an investment, and we want to make the most of that investment and make people feel as secure about that investment as we possibly can. So we focus very heavily on the fact that we can future proof that investment from a number of different angles. Stratus was founded specifically to address the complexities of multifamily, and we work with partners who do the same thing. When we talk about things like access control, Schlage multifamily locks, it's specifically locks that were developed with fire rating and ADA compliancy and things of that nature, so that occupancy licenses are never in question if you're installing that access control feature, just as an example. But knowing what we know about the marketplace and coming from the backgrounds that we come from and designing around that means that you have a solution that is going to continue to be a multifamily focused solution, even though we can service other verticals as well. All right. So this is where I'm going to let Lee kind of come in a little bit and talk more. This is really his area of expertise in talking about the networking and such. I know enough to be dangerous on this. The main points that we like to bring up is that we work with every major wireless protocol, which we have all listed here at the bottom. One thing to note on this is our sister company, BlueLogix, is also the global Z-Wave test house. So 90% or more of the Z-Wave products on the marketplace have come across our desk at some point or another for certification or testing or QA and what have you. So oftentimes we will know about Z-Wave products years before they hit the marketplace, and we know we can anticipate, therefore, what design features we may need to incorporate into our solution. But from there, Lee, I don't know if you want to make some points around how we design our networking plans for this.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Thank you.
The network is one of the most important pieces of the building infrastructure. And what this is going to do is allow you to really future-proof the building. Going back, and this is going to be the most costly piece of retrofitting any building in the future. So to avoid that, really it's putting in the infrastructure and then also deciding on a network that's going to be flexible to be able to look at future needs. It's great to put in a Wi-Fi network, but what happens if you have a Z-Wave thermostat comes out in 5 years that we want to deploy? So what we'll do is we'll look at the building plans, we'll go through and build a plan, and what that means is that we're going to have total coverage across the entire property, not only inside the unit, but inside corridors, hallways, clubhouse, anywhere that you want to put devices. This means devices on that property are then connected directly to our dashboard. Once it's connected to the dashboard, what this means is that there's no move-in, move-out process when it comes to your residents. We don't require an in-unit hub, so there's no connecting a hub to the user's ISP. As soon as somebody logs into the Stratus platform, even if they're sitting in the leasing office, they now can control those devices directly from the Stratus app from the moment that they're signed into a Yardi or RealPage or CRM software. The great piece is that as soon as somebody's moved out from that software, they're moved out from Stratus, and that apartment automatically goes into a vacant mode. So now this is where the ROI comes in. Now you're actually controlling those thermostats in Phoenix. You know, when it's somebody walks out of that apartment and leaves the thermostat at 66 degrees, as soon as they're signed out of Stratus, that apartment might go into a vacant mode where it's turned to 78 degrees. You know, the time that you're actually paying for the electricity to run the air conditioning in those units, you're actually able to control those without having to go to the units. Also, the same piece across the property in terms of clubhouses. If there's a heat wave in February and you want to turn down all the thermostats across the property, it's all done by one click on the dashboard. It doesn't take a maintenance person to go around and change those thermostats. Go to the dashboard, change thermostats in hallways, and change thermostats in all common areas such as the clubhouses, those pieces. Having the flexibility with the multiple Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, Z-Wave, and Zigbee just allows us to look at the property in the future. None of us can really tell where technology is going. I think of the things that we're doing today, 5 years ago, we would have never guessed were available. So really having a flexible protocol like this will really allow us to future-proof it and talk to any devices in the future. Also on the back end is having that Wi-Fi capability now allows us to offer part of that Wi-Fi network to the residents. So if you go with a traditional cable provider inside the units, the Stratus network can then provide common area connectivity for the residents, hallways, clubhouses, and so forth. So really, this is the what I call the one of two pieces. Once you have the access control nailed down, if you can really get a network that's robust and flexible like the Stratus network, then you're totally future-proofed. And really, it's going to save you a lot of money in the future. And you can also keep up with the competitors. Yeah, you build it in a new area of town. 3 years later, everybody surrounds you with more smart devices and more connected building. You don't have to worry about it. You can then go back and retrofit those solutions without cutting holes because the network infrastructure is already in place. So, thanks,
Awesome.
Addie.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I'll take it another step and say the timing of the installation of the network is important as well. If we're talking about, to Lee's point, timing later on, if you're doing retrofits especially, there are points where this becomes a lot more costly. If we're timing alongside a new construction and we can add the network during construction, some of the benefits in doing so are things like being able to monitor for leaks during construction. We've had case studies done on properties that have had extensive leak damage during things like gray water testing when leak detectors were not installed on the property or there was no way to monitor for that, and it destroyed half the building. So being able to provide for things like that and have that level of visibility, and then during bring up as the property is coming online, because that often happens in phases, what we can enable is the on-site and off-site controls of things like the lights around the building. Oftentimes you'll find property developers want to make sure that we've got the lights on during development so that it looks occupied and people become interested in it. So this is a great marketing ploy for property owners to be able to bring in residents ahead of bring up or occupancy. So just things to consider during those phases as well. So when we talked about the integrations that we enable here are some of the, just a very small sampling of some of the hardware integrations that we have. You'll recognize some of these products for sure, and especially the names associated with them. We take a lot of pride in these relationships. I can say that with authority because it's what I do at the company. So making sure that we have strong, not just relationships with these partners, but being able to create cross partnerships where feasible is something that not a lot of other companies are able to do. So oftentimes if we have, for example, I get requests from like Honeywell coming in and saying we want to work with Schlage on a project that we're doing, and then it becomes a pilot opportunity, and then it turns into something that's very cost effective for the marketplace because they know it creates more of a competitive dynamic for their product. This is something that we can very easily facilitate with those partnerships. But I highly encourage you to check out stratus.com/connected solutions and see what we have on that page, just to get a broader sense of what we integrate with, and see if there's anything that we don't carry that you may have some questions about, because it may be on our roadmap as well. So here, like I mentioned, we were going to go into this property, the Miles, which is located in uptown Minneapolis. The Miles is a unique case study just because it's, it was one of the first to really incorporate all of the technological advances that we had at that time. We've obviously extended our offering since then, but they really took the Stratus integration and ran with it. You'll see we're featured very prominently throughout this video. We did not do this video. The property actually created this as a means to bring in more resident opportunities. This particular, for those who aren't familiar with this area in Minneapolis, this is a very competitive marketplace in Minneapolis. There's a lot of construction going on in uptown right now. It's very up and coming. Super hip and trendy, but very bohemian. So we've got a lot of students, a lot of new families, some older retired residents in this space. So all demographics are in here. And what the property was really looking for was an immediate-ish return on investment for a space that was going to need to be competitive in this type of marketplace. So the key results that we have listed here came out of our case study for this particular property. So out of 203 resident units on here, 167 of them are using the Stratus app regularly, along with the 15 staff members on the property. 100% of the users utilize the app for mobile unlock, which is unprecedented. We also have 68% of the users using the thermostat function on the mobile app, which is great, and 48% using the smart lighting features. They recovered 100% of their investment in fewer than 2 years, which speaks to the robustness again of the net operating efficiencies and some of the other NOI or return on investment opportunities that Lee mentioned. And they already have an increase in their property value as a result of their investment. We know this because they have a sister property across the way that did not make this investment. So we have an immediate case study just right across the street from one another here. And they really are the gold standard in the space for multifamily. So now other properties are coming in and saying, we want to be like the Miles when they're talking about the decisions that they're making in that space. And as I mentioned, they're the other 2 of 3 properties that were nominated for Innovation and Tech Awards through the National Apartment Association. So we do have integrations as well with property management solutions. If you're talking to multifamily decision makers around products like this and you're not talking about property management solutions, you are missing a huge opportunity in the conversation to be the expert in the room. This in and of itself is one great way to show yourself as someone who is very knowledgeable in the space around the needs of multifamily. Knowing what they're planning to use or what they're currently using as a property management solution backend and what they like about it, what they don't like about it is of great importance because it helps your property understand what it is they should be looking for and what it is that they might be missing in their current structure. So what we integrate with is the ability to populate resident information across a couple of different backends without having to do it at multiple times. So RealPage, for example, is one of our top recommenders out in the marketplace right now. they often consult to put Stratus on different properties for our solution. And our integration with them means that if you're entering the resident information into RealPage, it automatically cross-populates into Stratus without your staff having to do additional legwork to make that happen. Maintenance tickets and things of that nature, kind of similar to our hardware integrations. We don't want to go reinvent the wheel. So when it comes to maintenance ticketing, we want to make sure that the visibility and the access to make maintenance tickets is consistent across the property management solution, but that the staff work to go into those maintenance tickets is minimalized. So if you're creating a maintenance ticket in Stratus, you don't have to recreate it in your PMS as well. So
with third-party vendors, is there, with the world that we're living in now, you don't have to send a maintenance person to meet them for, somebody to lay carpet. You send somebody a guest credential from 4 to 12 on Tuesday. The carpet person can access the front door, hallways, and then get into the unit, do their job, check out, and be on their way. It's just really reducing the interactions and really reducing the wasted time by staff on site. So.
And the good thing about that process is it's fully auditable as well. So if the person says that they were there and there's questions around that, you can audit the door lock and see if they actually accessed the space, or you can audit the mobile access and make sure that they actually turned it on and activated it and went into the space and did what they said they were going to do. So, that comes back to the resident as well. So if there's resident complaints or questions around something in that space, it's easy to show who had access to a space and when.
And at the end of the day, it's about flexibility. So our software provides the end user, the property staff, the ability to be flexible with scheduling access. So you can schedule access to the fitness center during a certain time. To certain individuals. Same thing with individual units. Or in fact, we provide an access for maintenance to have access to all unoccupied units at any given time. So that's going to be much easier. But that's the big differentiator between our software platform and the others out there, is the flexibility at the end of the day and the multifamily complexities that we are able to cater to with that amount of flexibility that we have set up. So we were created for multifamily. And we have that in mind.
So hugely important right now, especially for a lot of properties that are having to close down amenities and common areas due to COVID. This allows them even further flexibility around having to do that, which is an excellent point as well. So supporting the property goes far beyond just installing a really robust solution. We want to make sure that they have access to all of the things that they will need after that solution is in place. So we offer a lot of robust training and marketing materials. We always want to make sure that the staff is well versed in how to use the system, so that they can tailor it to their own needs. There's a lot of complexities behind it, but there's also a lot of open use opportunities for different staff members dependent on their roles on the property, the permissions that they need to have within the application. Same thing for residents. We want to make sure that they know how to accurately converse with the residents around what the solution is and how the residents can use it. So we offer a lot of training and marketing materials around this, both for the staff and the residents. We don't train the residents per se, but we definitely make sure that the staff has a thorough understanding. For the residents, we offer things like brochures and flyers around the product so that they have within their welcoming packet, they can pull out information around Stratus and see how to log into the Stratus app and know what it is. Things like thermostat hangers are pretty valuable because now they can go and see, oh, this thermostat is controllable with my smartphone. That's really cool. This particular piece is also bilingual. You flip it over, it's in Spanish on the back. How-to manuals are really great for property management and staff to be able to understand a little bit more of the nuances of the thing after they've gone through training. And to that point, we also offer training videos. So now they can go in and learn more around, how do you engage with different devices, for example.
Tips for using a Schlage lock. Stratus only integrates with locks that are built for multifamily and are tested for top security and fire standards. The Schlage control lock is widely deployed and supported by the Stratus platform. Now, these locks have a slight delay in the unlock sequence due to the rate at which the Bluetooth wakes up for a connection. So it's best to unlock the door as you're walking up to it or walking out. This allows the lock to already be activated by the time you're in front of it. When you're within range of the lock, it will appear at the top of your lock list and in your dashboard. Preferences located in the side menu of the Stratus mobile app 2.0 lets you personalize how you activate your lock. Choose between swipe or a long press button to lock and unlock your door. Stratus. Smart apartments, intelligent buildings.
Also, with the support of the property, we have physical support. We want to make sure that if anything, in the event that something does go less than expected, we'll say, on a property, we want to make sure that there's immediate outreach available to staff members on a property. We also do occasional handoffs for resident issues, supporting 300, almost 400,000 units across the United States means that we have double that, at least, of residents in a particular network. So we want to make sure that we're handling all of those different support issues readily, and that we have a network of support available to those residents and those staff members at a moment's notice. We do have 24-hour support available at a Tier 1 call center, so those can get filtered up or down as necessary if we need it to go up to our escalations. We actually have a physical team here in our headquarters in Philadelphia who will handle these phone calls and engage with the residents and the staff directly. SCPs, the Stratus certified partners such as Symphony, are oftentimes our boots on the ground in the event that we need someone to do a truck roll, or if we need just a physical presence to be able to confirm that someone's identity, is what they say it is. There's a lot of turnover in this industry, so we rely very heavily on those partnerships to help us gauge that people are acting appropriately. And it works very, very well for us because it helps our integrators to maintain and develop very strong partnerships with their decision makers as well. So that is the end of our presentation. I hope that everybody learned a lot today. Do we have some questions? We can open it up for Q&A now.
Yeah, we thank you for making time for that. While we're waiting for people to maybe write in their questions if they have one, I've got one, and that is, if you've got, a lot of this IoT stuff is pretty interesting to a lot of folks, but I think some people might look at some of the properties and feel like, oh, wow, I'm going to get overwhelmed. That's a whole lot going on. In the spirit of like a good, better, best approach, how can people get started? What are some of the basic elements that people can do, and then how can they build off that?
Really, it's the new norm. It depends on what part of the country, but definitely around what I call the horseshoe, the East Coast across the South and up the West Coast, is definitely the norm is becoming access control and thermostat control. As you get up to Seattle, thermostats aren't used as much, but the rest of the country, we're really seeing that the basic on new properties is going to be having a fully accessible property and then having thermostat control inside the unit. As we were saying earlier, once you have that network in place, you can grow with that system. So we have developers understand that they might be doing a refresh in 5 years, and if they go through and do a refresh and they need to add lighting or anything like that, then they can move forward. And one other piece that we're seeing people start with is leak detection. Leak detection is a funny one. Either people are all for it or people have never experienced it, but once they do, then are completely all for it because they see the cost that comes along with it. And we're also seeing it being pushed by the insurance companies. Having those leak detections is driving down the premiums. So yeah, it really is the starting point is really making sure that you have access control and that network in place. And really having that network in place is really paid for by putting that thermostat in place in each unit and in the common areas, because you're going to drive down those energy costs over the years, which will pay for that network anyhow. And then really after that, then it's really based on, what resident experience do you want to give? And really where does technology and multifamily head after this? Obviously it's moving quickly. And just having that in place is really going to future-proof you. So I can answer the other piece because that's part of my world also. So yes, Stratus is global. We white label our product for KDDI, which is the Comcast equivalent in Japan. And then also we're going live in 8 European countries this year. And yeah, it's, really, it takes us about 6 months to get set up in a country and really look at kind of regulations, those sorts of things. But in terms of Europe, we're already GDPR certified. And yeah, we'll have our first properties going live there by the end of the year. So yeah, we can do globally very easily.
And we are working right now on opportunities in Canada. So we'll be moving in. I think most immediately we're looking at the Toronto and Vancouver markets in that area, but we'll be expanding there as well.
Yeah, we went the furthest we could and went to Japan, and we figured we'll fill in between.
Hey, a question came up yesterday that I was talking to somebody with, and it was regarding COVID. Just real fast, you touched on a couple elements, but would you mind summarizing how Stratus can help people rethink how things might be a little bit different with COVID these days?
For sure. Yeah, there's a couple of different ways that I would say we can do that. The first is with the existing product. We have a lot of touchless solutions already. Once access control is in a space, granting access to the mobile app does not require a resident to be face-to-face with anyone from the property. We also offer integrations prior to lease up for residents to be able to come in and view a space without having to interact with leasing through integrations with Tour24 and with our own visitor access solution as kind of a workaround at this stage. But we're always looking for opportunities around things that sort of lessen the burden of the staff members to have to be in front of people all the time, because that can be, on top of all the other responsibilities that they have to do, that can take away from some of the things that they have to focus on as it is. And just by virtue of how we've designed the product, that's already lent itself to not having to engage effectively. So again, that handoff of the mobile application means that you have the handoff of the devices and the access control across the property, being able to view a space beforehand. And we're looking at upcoming technologies that are very similar to current integrations we have with products like Butterfly MX that are going to now do things like temperatures and stuff like that at the front door, so that the property can assess someone's health risk before they even enter the building.
Yeah, that's a great feature.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I'll make one more comment while we're soliciting one more, any more questions or hours coming up pretty quickly here. But I love the slogan y'all use of the original sidewalk to sofa solution. It sounds kind of catchy, but for people that might not completely understand that, can you briefly describe what sidewalk to sofa means to you guys?
Sure. Yeah. Trademark 2019. So that is, and you'll see others in the marketplace trying to use similar things. We've seen curb to couch already, and we've had to send out a few cease and desists there, which is kind of fun. But no, the real magic behind sidewalk to sofa is the fact that a resident experience can take them all the way from outside the building into their unit without them having to engage with the property directly, which means going in the front door, tapping on your phone to be able to walk in the front door, and then tapping on your phone to be able to access the elevator, and then tapping on your phone to be able to access your unit, and then tapping on your phone to be able to access the devices in there. Where we're augmenting that just beyond that offering to even go into things like package deliveries, working with companies who do package delivery services through either lockers or separate service windows, so that residents can schedule package deliveries, and again, from a contactless perspective, have the package delivered to their front door so that they can bring that in at their own time frame, and it's all very secure and auditable as well. So it's really just a fluid process for people to be able to engage with their building at their own level of desire, effectively.
I think that the biggest part of our consulting is really, other than the network, is really consulting on what's the journey. Is there parking garages? Where's a visitor that shows up in a car going to park? How are they going to get from the visitor parking lot through to a unit? How's a delivery driver going to deliver pizza after 9 o'clock? We go through a lot of these because there's some things that come into place. Do we need to put a PIN code reader in place? Do we need to be able to do a QR code reader? There's so many pieces of access control nowadays that we can answer all those questions as long as we ask them early on in the process and really design that specification to make sure that we are getting a delivery driver from the front door to the 23rd floor to deliver a pizza, rather than somebody having come down to the foyer to grab a pizza because they can't get into an elevator, those sorts of things. So that's a huge part of our consulting, is really understanding the journey of each person that's going to be using that building.
Well, your video looked really cool, but I think seeing it in person makes something extra special happen. And it just so happens that our new office, we moved about 2 or 3 weeks back. And but if you come to our office, if anyone's listening in the Atlanta area, or you're coming through Atlanta, we've got the Butterfly, the Brevo system, the Schlage locks, Stratus turning lights on and off, and using the seamless app. So we'd love to showcase all those capabilities that you saw out in Denver. We can actually show it to you right here in Atlanta at our office. So for those that are interested, please let us know. We'd be happy to show you around that. Well, I don't see any more questions. So with that, I think we'll conclude. And we thank y'all for making the time today. If you've got questions for Stratus, you can see some of the contact info still on the screen, or call us and we'll get you connected with them. But as Symphony's kind of mantra, that we're trying to make beautiful music out of the technology noise, or creating technology harmony. We're the integrator that's embraced all these technologies and trained people up to really understand it. Another tagline we're playing with is the integrator that actually integrates. There's a lot of people that do pieces of the puzzle, but we actually integrate all these things together. So having with that,
I'm sorry, we have a couple of questions from Ahmed. So if you want me to pick.
Go ahead. Great.
So the first one is there integrations with home appliances, TVs, sound bars, or washing machines? We're working on the appliance piece. In terms of sound bars and TVs, those sorts of things, that's all done directly through Google Home and Alexa. We integrate with those, and then they talk directly to those devices. The issues with that kind of the CE world, kind of consumer electronics, is that Sony will release 15 TVs every 6 months, and it's very difficult for us to keep up with it. Whereas with Amazon and integrating with Amazon, then you can set a scene that says, turn on living room. It might be a Sony TV turns on the Stratus. Stratus will turn on the fan that we're controlling. It might change the thermostat to 72 degrees. So we can bring all those devices directly into kind of the Stratus scene. Does Stratus sell hardware products, or does that has to be ordered separately? So we have distributors that we work with throughout the country. So if you have a need for Lutron lighting or Google Nest thermostats, we can source that directly for you, or you can use your local HVAC electric companies to be able to source those products. Then they come through the Stratus warehouse. We pre-commission them at the Stratus warehouse and then ship them back out to site already programmed. So we're very flexible when it comes to that. We're not a hardware company. We're not in this to make money off hardware. But if we need to assist in getting that hardware to you at a good price, we can do so. I don't think anybody pushes or sells more Schlage locks than we do. I think we're about 60,000 last year. I think we're over 50,000 light switches with Leviton, and that's just two of the brands that we work with. So we have some buying power that you can leverage when you work with us. So.
And I highly encourage anyone who has immediate questions around this stuff, please do definitely reach out to Lee. I put him on here first specifically because this is really his presentation. So it's a matter of getting the wealth of knowledge that he has around things like that to you as quickly as possible. So.
We have a full sales team across the country, so it's not we have everybody deployed from the East Coast to the West Coast. So we'll get on the phone, get a Zoom meeting going, and then introduce you to our local regionals, and then we'll work with you throughout the entire process. Really, we are more of a consulting firm and software than we are anything else. Getting into technology is brand new to a lot of these developments, so we're really here to guide you through the whole process, work with your builders, your GCs, electricians, HVAC companies, those sorts. And we have a full project management team of, I think we're up to 12 now, to really help guide you through that entire process. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
All right, I don't see any more questions. So, and it's 12 o'clock, so we're right on schedule. So thanks again for joining us. To stay up to date on all things Symphony, you can follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube at Symphony Technology Solutions, where this webinar will be available next week. And to learn more about Stratus, the original Sidewalk to Sofa solution, follow them on LinkedIn, Facebook, and at Stratis IoT. Thanks again, and look forward to seeing what comes of this. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you, Trey.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good day.